Chapter 1. The Mark No One Expected. The barren landscape of Zerath 9 stretched endlessly beneath a bruised, twilight sky, an eerie twilight that never quite gave way to full night or day. Jagged shards of rusted metal, remnants of forgotten machines, jutted from cracked soil like ancient bones protruding from the earth. The silence here was almost sacred, broken only by the faint whistle of the cold wind carrying dust and the occasional groan of distant tectonic shifts beneath the planet's crust. Zerath 9 was a graveyard of ambition, a once thriving colony world that had been reduced to a wasteland, abandoned by its creators and forgotten by most. Amidst the ruin and silence, a solitary figure moved with purpose, each footfall sinking slightly into the cracked dirt and debris beneath the heavy tread of worn boots. Kieran Voss, veteran scavenger and reluctant hero, advanced through the ruins, his breath measured, and his senses razor-sharp. His body was encased in a patched, battered suit of survival armor, reinforced with scavenged technology that pulsed faintly with an alien glow, the last vestiges of life support systems barely holding out against the planet's hostile environment. His helmet, dark and reflective, bore the marks of 1,000 battles, but it was the burn on his neck, faint yet undeniable, that drew the eyes of those who dared to look closely. The burn was no ordinary scar. It was a searing trace of something cosmic, something ancient and terrifying, a stain left behind by the void fire, a celestial phenomenon that tore through space like a star's dying breath, consuming all in its path with fire not of flame, but of pure energy, bending reality itself. The blue-black mark pulsed rhythmically beneath his skin, as if alive, a heartbeat against the cold void that surrounded him. It was the mark that had saved his life, and yet cursed it, the symbol of a power no one had thought possible to survive. Kieran's memories flickered like distant static in his mind as he navigated the labyrinth of collapsed structures, their skeletal remains twisted into impossible shapes by decades of radiation and neglect. The colony's history had been swallowed by time, lost in the dust of war and plague, but whispers of the Silent Star, the plague that wiped the population out overnight, still echoed faintly across the galaxy. Those whispers spoke of shadows lurking beneath the surface, of secrets best left buried. But Kieran was no stranger to secrets. His life had been shaped by them. As he approached the ruins of the colony's central research complex, the dim glow of his suit's HUD flickered, struggling to maintain signal in the thickening atmosphere. The air was thin and poisonous, and every breath drawn through his mask tasted like bitter ash and old metal. His eyes scanned the wreckage, searching for the entry point. The heavy steel door lay ajar, warped and rusted, but still intact enough to promise shelter from the planet's merciless elements. He ducked under a fallen beam and stepped inside. The interior was a tomb. Cracked consoles blinked faintly with fading power, shards of shattered glass littered the floor, and a thin layer of dust coated every surface like a shroud. Here, the air was even colder, sterile in its emptiness. The scent of ozone and decay mingled in the stillness, a haunting reminder of the science that had once flourished within these walls, and the catastrophe that had destroyed it. Kieran's footsteps echoed hollowly as he moved deeper into the lab, eyes scanning for the data core, the last hope for uncovering what had happened here. The colony's AI archives were said to hold the answers, if they were still intact. His comlink buzzed again. Kieran, status check. The voice of Lieutenant Miradrace, the only contact he had left in the outer fleet, crackled through the static. You're pushing the limits. Oxygen levels at 17%, energy at 23%. Extraction window is closing fast. What's your situation? He gritted his teeth and glanced at the readouts on his HUD. I'm inside the research hub. No sign of survivors. Beginning data retrieval now. If the archives are intact, this is going to change everything we know about the Silent Star. His voice was steady, but inside, a storm raged. This mission was more than just data collection. It was personal. Myra's reply was quick, tinged with urgency. Copy that. Don't take unnecessary risks. We're prepping the evac drones. You have 30 minutes before this planet starts spitting fire. Literally. Kieran smirked beneath his helmet. Fitting. He knelt beside a console, cracked and scorched, but surprisingly responsive to his portable interface. His fingers danced across the holographic keyboard, bypassing security protocols and corrupted files. Then, the screen flickered and stabilized, revealing a torrent of encrypted files, research logs, experiment data, and a series of encrypted messages labeled with the highest security clearance. As he started downloading the files into his suit's memory banks, a sudden vibration rippled through the floor. Dust cascaded from the ceiling as the planet trembled beneath him. Zerath 9's unstable core was waking. The clock was running out. Suddenly, the lab's main viewport shimmered with a burst of blue light. Kieran turned sharply, helmet sensors alerting him to movement. A figure appeared beyond the reinforced glass, silhouetted against the storm of static and radio waves. She was tall, her form lithe yet commanding, with skin that seemed to shimmer like molten metal, her eyes glowing a fierce silver. She wore a suit unlike anything Kieran had ever seen, bioorganic armor that pulsed rhythmically as if alive, flowing over her like liquid shadow. Her expression was one of shock, almost disbelief, as she stared at Kieran. She stepped back when she saw my burn. Kieran remembered thinking, the memory as vivid now as the moment itself. Her eyes widened, and her voice was barely a whisper, but the weight of her words struck him like a hammer. This is impossible. Kieran felt a cold shiver ripple through him. She wasn't just reacting to the burn itself. She was reacting to what it meant, what it represented. Something ancient. Something that should not exist in this time. Before he could respond, the air around them cracked with an electric charge, the lab's security systems coming alive in an automated defense protocol. The glass between them shimmered and began to seal with an almost sentient determination. The woman raised a hand, palm glowing with energy, and muttered words in a language older than any Kieran had ever heard. The energy pulsed, striking the glass with a shockwave that rattled the entire building. Kieran's mind raced. Who was she? An enemy? An ally? And how did she know about the void fire burn? The mark no one was supposed to survive. As the chamber sealed and the lights dimmed to an ominous red, Kieran realized that whatever secrets the Silent Star held, whatever forces had destroyed this colony, they were far from over. His burn was a curse and a key, and the answers he sought would challenge everything humanity believed about the universe and himself. The impossible was unfolding before him. Kieran pressed his palm against the cold surface of the viewport, feeling the subtle vibrations of the energy field that now sealed him away from the mysterious woman on the other side. Her eyes never left the glowing burn that pulsed beneath the skin of his neck, the faint blue-black sigil that defied all known science and reason. The strange mixture of fear, wonder, and something almost like reverence in her gaze unsettled him, but also ignited a curious ember of hope. Here, in this forgotten corner of the galaxy, was someone who recognized what the mark meant, and that recognition alone promised answers long overdue. The air between them crackled faintly with static as she muttered again in her ancient tongue, the cadence rhythmic yet alien, a language born from stars long dead and civilizations vanished without trace. Her words summoned arcs of energy that danced along the surface of her bioorganic armor, which shimmered and shifted as if it were a living extension of her very being. The energy distorted the glass briefly, bending light in impossible ways, and Kieran found himself mesmerized by the fluid grace of her movements, as though she were a creature born from the very fabric of the cosmos itself. A sudden jolt rocked the building, throwing dust and small debris from the cracked ceiling. Kieran staggered, bracing himself against the console as a distant explosion echoed through the ruins, a reminder that Zerath 9's unstable core was reaching critical mass. Time was slipping away faster than he had anticipated, and evacuation was no longer just a precaution, it was a necessity. But he couldn't tear his eyes away from the woman, from the impossible truth reflected in her silver gaze. Who? What are you? He finally asked, voice rough from disuse, transmitted through the comm channel built into his helmet. The words seemed pitifully inadequate in the face of her otherworldly presence. She hesitated, then spoke in heavily accented common, words painstakingly chosen, like each syllable bore the weight of millennia. I am Saris Valen, last sentinel of the Luminari. We were the keepers of the Void Fire's secret, the flame that should have consumed all, but was bound instead. You carry its mark. The name echoed like a thunderclap in Kieran's mind. The Luminari were a myth whispered in forbidden archives and starship legends, an ancient order believed to have vanished before humanity even claimed its first colony worlds. They were said to be custodians of a power beyond comprehension, wielding energies drawn from dying stars and collapsing realities. If Ceres truly was one of them, then the stakes of his mission were infinitely greater than simple data retrieval. He swallowed hard, struggling to process the implications. The burn. It saved me from the Silent Star plague. I was the only survivor. How does that connect to your people? Her eyes softened briefly, a flicker of sorrow passing over her features like a shadow of a memory. The Silent Star was not a plague, but a cleansing, a desperate attempt to contain the Void Fire's reach after it was unleashed by our own failure. Your survival means the flame's balance has shifted. The mark on your skin is both a blessing and a curse. It binds you to the Void Fire's legacy, for better or worse. Kieran's pulse quickened. The burden he had carried alone suddenly felt like a shared fate, a destiny intertwined with the legacy of an ancient cosmic order and the future of all life on Zerath. 9. Perhaps even the galaxy itself. Before he could reply, a new series of alarms blared throughout the lab. The extraction window was closing rapidly. The core meltdown was imminent. The glass between them began to hum ominously, reacting to her powers as if resisting some unseen force. Ceres's gaze flickered toward the lab's exit, calculating, conflicted. "You must leave," she said urgently. "There is more to this than you realize. The mark will attract forces beyond your comprehension, enemies who would see this world burn again. But know this, your survival has already rewritten the fate of stars." With a flash of light, the energy field shattered, and the glass between them exploded inward, sending shards flying. Kieran barely managed to shield his face as Ceres stepped into the lab, the air around her charged with raw power. The boundary between alien and human blurred, and for a moment, Kieran glimpsed not a stranger but a reflection of his own restless spirit, both marked by the past, both fighting against the impossible. Together, they raced through the crumbling corridors toward the extraction point, the fires of Zerath, 9 igniting behind them like a star reborn in destruction. The impossible was no longer just a whispered legend. It was alive, burning brighter than ever in the scars they carried. Chapter 2. Secrets Beneath the Ashes. The shuttle's engines droned softly beneath the hull, a steady, mechanical heartbeat that was almost soothing compared to the chaos they had just escaped. Inside the cramped cockpit, the cold metallic walls seemed to close in around Kieran and Ceres, trapping the impossible reality they had just survived into a fragile bubble of momentary safety. Zerath 9's toxic atmosphere and erupting core were now distant threats, the planet's violent convulsions replaced by the steady hum of interstellar flight. Yet the gravity of their situation weighed heavier than any gravitational field. Kieran sat rigid, staring out into the void beyond the reinforced viewport, where stars glimmered like frozen tears spilled across the darkness. The blue-black burn on his neck throbbed faintly, a reminder of the burden he carried, a secret he barely understood, but which now seemed inseparable from his very existence. The silence between him and Ceres was thick, pregnant with unspoken questions and the strange bond forged in the crucible of near death. Ceres, still clad in her fluid, shimmering bioarmor, sat opposite him with a grace that belied the tension coiling beneath her surface. Her silver eyes, bright and piercing, reflected the starfield beyond, but there was an undercurrent of weariness in her gaze, the kind that comes from millennia of watching empires rise and fall, from carrying the weight of a legacy older than most civilizations dared to acknowledge. Finally, breaking the silence, she spoke, her voice a low melody threaded with centuries of loss and hope. "You carry the mark of the Void Fire not by chance, Kieran. It chose you, or perhaps it has been waiting for you." Her words settled between them like a sacred truth, thick with meaning. The Luminari were tasked with containing this flame, keeping it locked away so it would not consume entire worlds. But when the Silent Star spread its death, it was not an accident. It was the result of our failure, a fracture in the delicate balance we sought to maintain. Kieran's mind raced, trying to reconcile the fragments of knowledge she was revealing with everything he'd ever believed. He had grown up on stories of the Void Fire as a cosmic scourge, a cataclysm that annihilated entire star systems in an instant, a force no living thing could withstand. Yet here was Ceres, alive and breathing, claiming her people had not only encountered it, but tried to control it. The very thought challenged everything he knew about power and survival. "But why me?" he asked, voice hoarse with a mixture of fear and fascination. "I was just a scavenger, a man trying to survive. How could I possibly be connected to something so vast and ancient?" Ceres's eyes softened, her bio-armor rippling like liquid silver as she leaned forward. The Void Fire does not choose lightly. It imprints upon those with the resilience to carry its burden, those who can walk the thin line between destruction and creation. Your survival was no accident, it was destiny. The burn you bear is a symbol of that covenant, a beacon that draws both salvation and danger. As she spoke, the ship's AI interfaced with the comm systems, bringing up encrypted transmissions salvaged from the colony archives. Screens flickered to life, displaying faded images of the Luminaries' last desperate attempts to contain the Void Fire's wrath, their experiments with energies drawn from collapsing stars, and the plague they unleashed to quarantine the contamination, the Silent Star. The images were haunting, star maps overlaid with warning signs, starships engulfed in blue flames, and cryptic symbols that seemed to pulse with life on the monitors. Kieran's gaze locked onto a particular transmission, grainy but unmistakable, a holographic message from the colony's lead scientist, Dr. Elena Maris, her face gaunt and resolute amid the chaos. "If you are watching this, then the quarantine has failed. The Void Fire has breached containment. The Silent Star is not a disease, it is a purge. Only those marked with the burn can hope to stand against what is coming. Protect the mark. It is our last hope." The message ended abruptly as the recording was consumed by static, a chilling reminder of the colony's fate. Ceres turned to Kieran, her voice steady but urgent. "We must find the source of the Void Fire's resurgence before it spreads beyond Zerath. 9. There are others, those who seek to harness the flame's power for their own ends. They will come for you. For us all." The shuttle shook suddenly as it entered a denser asteroid field, remnants of an ancient war, debris cast adrift for millennia. Outside, jagged rocks loomed like the teeth of a cosmic beast, threatening to tear the fragile ship apart. Kieran gripped the controls instinctively, maneuvering through the labyrinth with practiced precision, but his mind was elsewhere, haunted by the enormity of their task. "Where do we go from here?" he asked, not just of the ship, but of the destiny that now entwined them. Ceres's eyes gleamed with a mixture of defiance and sorrow. "To the Nexus, a hidden sanctuary where the last of the Luminaries' knowledge is kept. If we can unlock its secrets, perhaps we can learn to wield the Void Fire rather than be consumed by it. But reaching it will not be easy. The path is guarded by those who do not wish the flame to be tamed." Kieran nodded grimly. The universe had just become far more dangerous than he had ever imagined. The burn on his neck was no longer a mark of survival. It was a summons to war, a call to confront ancient forces that defied reason and threatened to unravel the very fabric of reality. Together, he and Ceres would have to navigate treacherous alliances, forgotten technologies, and their own haunted pasts if they hoped to prevent the Void Fire from engulfing all that they held dear. As the shuttle slipped silently through the darkness, carrying its burden toward the unknown, Kieran felt a strange calm settle over him. The impossible was no longer just a whisper in the void. It was a blazing truth etched into his skin, a flame that could either destroy him or forge him anew. Chapter 3: The Nexus of Forgotten Flames. The shuttle drifted through the vast emptiness of space, like a solitary ember flickering against an ocean of darkness. Beyond the reinforced glass cockpit, constellations of cold stars stretched infinitely, their silent light bathing the interior in pale reflections. For Kieran, the hours since leaving Zerath, 9 had passed in a blur of tension and uneasy camaraderie with Ceres. The weight of the Void Fire mark pressed against his skin like a living thing, a reminder that his survival was not just a matter of chance, but a tether binding him to a destiny that transcended time and reason. Ceres sat beside him, the shimmer of her bio-armor muted in the low ambient light, Yet every subtle movement of her frame radiated a kind of alien grace that no human technology could replicate. Her eyes, those piercing silver orbs, held a mixture of urgency and fatigue, as if the burden she carried was older than the stars themselves. Despite the fragile truce between them forged in the fires of desperation, a vast gulf of history and purpose separated their worlds, and yet they were inexorably linked by the same cosmic flame that branded Kieran. The nexus is close. Saris finally broke the silence, her voice low but resolute, reverberating softly within the cockpit's confines. Beyond the veil of shadows, a nebula cloaked in energy fields and temporal distortions. Many have tried to penetrate its depths. None have returned. Kieran's jaw tightened as he absorbed the gravity of her words. The veil of shadows had been a myth, a whispered tale among starfarers and smugglers about a sector of space where reality itself frayed, where ships vanished without trace, swallowed by unseen forces. To venture there meant courting oblivion. Yet the Nexus held the only hope of understanding the Voidfire's true nature and, perhaps, controlling it. He reached out instinctively to stabilize the shuttle as they entered the outer fringes of the nebula. Outside, swirling clouds of iridescent gas coiled like serpents, glowing faintly with unnatural hues of violet and emerald, twisting and pulsating in defiance of known physics. The veil was alive with ancient energy, resonating with the same frequency as the burn on his neck, a cosmic echo that sent chills racing down his spine. Saris's eyes narrowed, fingers dancing over her control panel, interfacing with sensors attuned to detecting the Nexus's signature amidst the chaos. The Luminari constructed the Nexus as a sanctuary and a vault, a repository for knowledge, artifacts, and the last remnants of their power. It exists in a pocket dimension tethered to the physical universe by fragile strands of quantum threads. Kieran listened, each word expanding the labyrinth of mystery around the flame that had marked his fate. A pocket dimension, he repeated thoughtfully. So this place isn't really here, not like the rest of space. Correct, Saris confirmed. The Nexus lies between dimensions, hidden from those who would misuse its power. But its defenses are not just technological. They are woven from ancient sorcery and forbidden science. To enter is to challenge the very fabric of reality. The shuttle's hull creaked under the strain of spatial distortions as they approached the edge of the veil. The sensors flickered erratically, systems struggling to compensate for the turbulence. Kieran's hands gripped the controls tightly, muscles coiled with both apprehension and determination. Every instinct screamed that this journey was a crossing point, between the known and the unknown, between survival and extinction. Suddenly, the ship lurched violently. A wave of disorienting energy surged through the cabin, lights flickering as the quantum threads around them fluctuated unpredictably. Kieran's vision blurred, the stars outside fragmenting into kaleidoscopic shards as the shuttle plunged into the dimensional gateway. Time and space seemed to warp, moments stretching into eternity, collapsing upon themselves like a dying star folding into a black hole. When the chaos subsided, the shuttle drifted into a realm unlike anything either of them had witnessed, an ethereal expanse of shimmering light and shadow, where swirling mists of cosmic energy danced in intricate patterns. The laws of physics twisted and bent here, gravity shifted with moods, and colors hummed with soundless symphonies. It was a place of impossible beauty and disquieting menace. Saris exhaled softly, eyes scanning the surroundings with reverence and caution. We have arrived. The Nexus lies within. Kieran felt the burn on his neck pulse in synchrony with the environment, the Voidfire's essence intertwining with the Nexus's power, awakening ancient forces that had slumbered for millennia. He understood now that their journey was not just to uncover forgotten knowledge, but to confront a living legacy of cosmic destruction and creation. As they maneuvered the shuttle deeper into the Nexus, strange structures emerged from the shimmering ether, colossal monoliths of unknown material, carved with symbols that glowed with a haunting light. These relics bore the unmistakable imprint of the Luminari, elegant yet alien, blending organic curves with crystalline geometry. They pulsed with an energy that was simultaneously soothing and unsettling, as if alive with purpose and memory. The shuttle's instruments registered faint energy signatures emanating from the monoliths, confirming the presence of dormant power. Ceres's fingers traced patterns over the console, unlocking pathways through the Nexus's labyrinthine dimension. "The Luminaries' greatest hope and their gravest mistake," she murmured. "They created this place to preserve their wisdom, but also sealed their doom within." Suddenly, a surge of energy rocked the shuttle, alarms blaring as systems faltered under an unseen assault. The lights flickered, and the walls trembled as a spectral force manifested outside, a twisting vortex of shadow and flame, an ancient sentinel guarding the Nexus's core. It pulsed with the same energy signature as Kieran's burn, but distorted into a terrifying mirror of the Voidfire's destructive potential. Kieran felt the cold grip of fear, but Ceres's presence steadied him. "This is the Nexus's defense mechanism," she explained urgently. "It perceives you as both bearer and threat of the flame. We must prove ourselves worthy, or be consumed." The shuttle's exterior panels ignited with energy as the Sentinel lashed out, tendrils of dark fire scraping against the hull. Kieran tightened his grip on the controls, initiating evasive maneuvers, but the entity was relentless, weaving through the Nexus with predatory grace. As the battle unfolded, memories flickered through Kieran's mind, visions of the Luminaries' final stand, their sacrifice to contain the Void Fire, and the heavy price paid by all who bore its mark. He realized that this was no mere guardian, but a trial, a cosmic test to determine who could wield the flame without succumbing to its madness. With Ceres's guidance and his own growing connection to the burn's power, Kieran tapped into a wellspring of energy deep within himself, a fusion of human resilience and cosmic force. He focused on the mark, feeling it blaze like a beacon, radiating light that pierced the Sentinel's shadows. The entity recoiled, its form flickering as Kieran's aura expanded, pushing back the darkness with a brilliance that was both terrifying and beautiful. The shuttle surged forward, breaking through the Sentinel's grasp and piercing the heart of the Nexus. They emerged into a chamber bathed in radiant energy, the core of the Nexus itself, a sanctuary of knowledge and power, where the past and future converged. Here lay the secrets of the Void Fire, waiting to be unraveled, and with them, the fate of all who bore its mark. Kieran stepped from the shuttle, the burn on his neck roaring with renewed intensity. The impossible was now within reach, and the true test of his fate had only just begun. Chapter 4: The Flame Reborn. The chamber breathed with a life of its own, ancient energies thrumming through the very walls in a symphony of power and silence intertwined. Kieran stood at the threshold, the burn on his neck blazing like a beacon that illuminated the darkness around him, casting long, wavering shadows that seemed to dance with a sentient awareness. The Nexus, the heart of the Void Fire's legacy, was unlike anything he had ever imagined, an expansive cathedral of light and shadow, its architecture a seamless fusion of crystalline spires and organic curves that pulsed with a rhythm older than time itself. Here, past and future collided, memories and possibilities overlapping in a kaleidoscope of cosmic significance. Ceres stood beside him, her silver eyes reflecting the radiant energy that filled the vast space. Her bioorganic armor shimmered as if woven from strands of the Nexus's very essence, a living testament to the Luminaries' mastery and sacrifice. The air was thick with an intangible charge, the kind of electric anticipation that preludes epical change. For the first time since their harrowing escape from Zerath 9, Kieran felt the crushing weight of his destiny in full force. The enormity of the power he bore, the knowledge he was about to grasp, and the responsibility that threatened to consume him. "We have come to the threshold," Ceres said softly, her voice resonating in the vast chamber. "Here lies the source, the core of the Void Fire, the flame that gave life and death in equal measure. It is said that to face the source is to confront the essence of creation itself. It tests those who seek it, judging their worthiness not by strength alone, but by the purity of their resolve." Kieran's gaze settled on the central structure dominating the chamber, a towering obelisk of radiant crystal, swirling with molten streams of energy that rippled like living fire trapped beneath translucent glass. The flame within it burned cold and fierce, a paradox of destruction and genesis. His fingers instinctively brushed the burn on his neck, feeling the familiar pulse that now seemed to resonate directly with the obelisk's core. "Then this is what I am bound to," Kieran murmured, awe and fear mingling in his tone. "Not just a survivor or a bearer of a mark, but a guardian. Or a wielder. But how do I control something so vast, so impossible?" Ceres's eyes glimmered with ancient wisdom. "The power of the void fire is not tamed by force, but by understanding. It demands sacrifice and balance. Many who sought to command it were consumed by its fury, lost to madness or oblivion. Only those who embrace the duality of flame, destruction and renewal, can hope to harness it." As they approached the obelisk, the Nexus responded to their presence. The crystalline surfaces shifted, colors flowing through every facet like blood through veins. Holographic projections materialized around them, ancient texts and images unfolding in midair. Chronicles of the Luminaries' rise and fall, their battles to contain the void fire, and the final cataclysm that fractured their order and scattered its survivors across the stars. Kieran reached out to touch the light, and the moment his fingers brushed the surface, a surge of knowledge flooded his mind. Visions of cosmic phenomena, star systems igniting and dying in bursts of flame, and the intricate dance of quantum threads weaving existence itself. The void fire was no mere elemental force. It was a fundamental energy that shaped reality, a flame born from the dying breaths of collapsing universes. But with revelation came terror. Kieran saw glimpses of the great enemy Ceres had warned of, dark entities known as the Ashen, shadowy beings born from the corrupted remnants of the void fire, bent on consuming all light and life. They sought the Nexus, craving its power to unleash chaos across dimensions. If they succeeded, the universe would plunge into an eternal night, the flames snuffed out forever. Suddenly, the chamber trembled, a deep rumble echoing through the Nexus as warning systems flared to life. The Ashen had found them. Ceres's armor reacted instantly, tendrils of energy extending from her gauntlets as she prepared to defend the sanctum. Kieran felt the burn on his neck flare violently, a primal instinct surging through him. "We cannot let them claim the Nexus," Ceres declared, determination hardening her voice. "This is our last stand." The chamber's crystalline walls fractured as shadowy forms emerged from the darkness. The Ashen, their forms shifting and writhing like smoke-made flesh, eyes burning with malevolent hunger. They advanced with relentless fury, tendrils of darkness lashing out to engulf the light. Kieran and Ceres moved as one, weaving through the battlefield with fluid grace and ferocity. Kieran summoned the flame within, channeling the void fire's energy into blasts of searing light that carved through the Ashen ranks. The power was intoxicating, but each use drained him, the burn on his neck searing deeper with every pulse. Ceres's movements were a blur of precision and strength, her bioarmor transforming into weapons and shields that radiated pure energy. Amidst the chaos, Kieran realized that this battle was more than physical. It was a test of spirit and will. The flame demanded balance. Too much fury would consume him, too little would doom them all. He steadied his breath, reaching into the core of his being to find harmony between destruction and creation. With a cry that echoed through the Nexus, Kieran unleashed a wave of radiant energy that pushed back the Ashen, their forms dissolving into nothingness as light reclaimed the chamber. Exhausted but unbroken, he turned to Ceres, whose eyes held a mix of relief and something deeper, respect, perhaps even hope. "This is only the beginning," she said, her voice steady despite the wounds etched on her armor and soul. "The flame has chosen you, Kieran. Now you must decide what kind of wielder you will be, a harbinger of destruction or a beacon of renewal." As the Nexus pulsed with renewed light, Kieran felt the impossible truth crystallize within him. The burn on his neck was not just a mark of survival, but the seed of a new legacy, a legacy that would shape the fate of galaxies. The flame was reborn, and with it, the dawn of a new era. The afterglow of the battle faded into a profound stillness, the chamber within the Nexus settling into a quiet reverence that felt almost sacred. Kieran lowered his hands slowly from where they had radiated the devastating energy moments before, feeling the searing burn on his neck cool just slightly. as if the flame within him had been momentarily appeased. But he knew better. The void fire was not a force that could ever be fully quelled. It was a living, breathing essence, a tempest of creation and destruction that demanded respect, vigilance, and unwavering balance. Saris moved beside him, her footsteps echoing softly on the crystalline floor as she approached the obelisk once more. Her eyes, those silver beacons that had guided Kieran through the labyrinth of cosmic mysteries, now shimmered with something akin to hope. "You have passed the trial of the Nexus," she said with quiet solemnity. "Few have the strength or purity to stand against the ashen and emerge whole. The flame acknowledges you, Kieran Voss, as its rightful bearer." Kieran swallowed hard, the weight of her words settling deep into his bones. To be recognized by the void fire was both honor and curse. It meant he carried within him the power to shape worlds, but also the burden of their potential ruin. For a moment, he was lost in the enormity of it all, the countless lives touched by the silent star, the Luminari's sacrifice, and now his own path forward. Yet within that daunting expanse of responsibility, a fierce determination ignited. He had survived the impossible once. Now, he would harness it. The chamber shifted subtly, the obelisk's crystalline surface pulsing in response to his resolve. A soft hum filled the air, vibrating through every fiber of his being. From the depths of the Nexus, a voice, ancient, resonant, and filled with timeless wisdom, spoke directly into his mind. It was neither male nor female, neither human nor alien, but a synthesis of all that the flame represented. "You are the flame reborn," it intoned. "The nexus of destruction and creation, the bearer of balance. The universe bends and flows with your will, but remember, power is not dominion, and control is not conquest. The flame guides those who listen, punishes those who defy." Kieran nodded slowly, feeling the truth of those words resonate deeply. He closed his eyes, allowing the energy of the Nexus to flow through him, to cleanse and strengthen his very soul. The burn on his neck flared once more, no longer a torment, but a beacon, a living emblem of his purpose. Turning to Saris, he offered a steady smile. "This is not the end. It's the beginning of healing, of hope, and of a new covenant between humanity and the stars." Saris returned his smile, with a glimmer of warmth rare for one burdened by eternal duty. "The universe is vast, Kieran, and darkness still lingers. But together, we will ensure the flame burns brightly, a light against the void." Outside the Nexus, the shadows that once threatened to consume galaxies began to recede, held at bay by the reborn flame within him. The void fire's legacy was no longer one of fear and annihilation, but of renewal and resilience. The impossible had been faced, the unthinkable endured, and a new chapter written among the stars. As the shuttle prepared to leave the Nexus behind, Kieran looked once more at the mark glowing softly beneath his skin. It was a symbol of everything he had lost and everything he stood to gain. And with that mark, he carried the hope of countless souls, a reminder that even in the coldest void, a single flame could light the way. The stars outside twinkled in silent witness, ancient and eternal. And somewhere, in the endless night, the impossible had become reality.